Welcome to the Boneyard with Steve Robertson. As always, I am your good friend and host, Steve Robertson, here on the Maroon Friday edition of the Yard. Hope it's a payday for you. Maybe it is for you bi-weekly and weekly wage earners. Perhaps today is the magic day. Hope you have a chance to get out and go have some fun. Go do something cool besides pay bills. That's one thing in life as you get a little bit older. You reach those points in life where it's like you feel like all you do is work to pay everybody else. I hope that you get a chance to treat yourself a little bit. We treated ourselves last night. Took the kids to see the Memphis Grizzlies play the Detroit Pistons. These kids, had never been to an NBA game, had a blast. I got a younger kid that is an self-admitted NBA nerd. I think he likes the NBA more than anything. Listens to podcasts about the NBA, about mock drafts, that sort of stuff, keeps up with it, had a great time. He had never been to an NBA game before. I can promise you it won't be the last time we go. Had a great time. The Grizzlies really do it right. They've won 7 in a row. How about that? What's fourth in the standings right now? I believe it's correct. Pistons not doing nearly as well. But it was good. It was a great time. And it's, that's the thing about an NBA game. There's always something going on. Like even during the timeouts, there's always like games and there's exhibitions, there's dance, there's all kind of stuff. It's a great atmosphere. If you haven't been, let me encourage you to go. Be safe, be cautious, but get out and have a good time. Some news to report, too. We have learned earlier in the day that former wide receiver Quentin Torbert, I guess he's still a wide receiver, he's just not at Mississippi State anymore, has entered the NCAA transfer portal. This is not a surprise, and that's the thing, too, I go back to. It's like I read this stuff sometimes, on social media, and people suggest, the sky is falling. The sky is not falling, guys. Quentin Torbert, who is a great young man, was the guy that was pretty much highly coveted by Jim Moorhead and his staff, committed to state very, very early, kind of got the ball rolling for us, and has not played at all, has not recorded a catch in his 3 years on the Mississippi State campus. Of course, he redshirted his first year, didn't play last year during a COVID year. We saw some flashes from him during the fall. Thought he may have an opportunity to get on the field this year. Again, did not record a catch this year. So 3 years of action, didn't record a catch. Now, that's not going to stop this segment of the fan base. Oh, Steve, something's got to be wrong. No, nothing's wrong. You get a short time in life to play sports. The clock is ticking. And it's not, for guys that necessarily have NFL aspirations. I mean, it's like, hey, I've had a great time here. I got 3 years in, but I'm obviously not going to play here. And so let me go find a place to play. Let me go get on the field. Playing is fun. Having a chance to contribute and be able to get out there and play the sports you love is fun. If all you ever do is work out and practice and you never get the payoff, it's frustrating. It is. And take that from a high school bench warmer football player. I decided to play something else. And so we wish Quentin Torbert the absolute best. Another fine young man. As I mentioned with Calvin McMillian and Aaron Odom, these guys are not being pushed out of the program due to some character issues. Just not the case at all. Sometimes you find out, hey, listen, there are guys around me that are better. Chances of me playing here aren't going to be very good. So I need to go find a place to play. It's a difficult decision. I think that is the good thing about the NCAA transfer portal, is to give guys a chance to get out and go get going. The reality of it is there's a good side and a bad side to all of this. This is a good one. You can say, well, Steve, we're losing another player. Well, really the benefit for us is it opens up a scholarship for perhaps a player that could contribute. And it's obvious at this point Quentin's not going to contribute at Mississippi State. And so everybody wins in this situation. He gets a chance to go somewhere else where he can contribute, and Mississippi State gets an opportunity to sign another player that could come in and contribute here. I hate to say it this way, but at times, you get some dead weight on the roster, and it's probably a good thing that they want to go somewhere else rather than ride the scholarship rolls and then the university pay for their education and then them not fully contribute to what's happening on the football field. And so Quentin Torbert, again, a great young man. Wish him the absolute best. And there will be some other transfers. We've been preparing for this for a while. We've been talking about this for about 6 weeks. We're expecting about a half dozen to go. The only one that's been a surprise really is Aaron Brule. There's a couple other guys out there that have kind of been non-contributors that we expect to hit the portal here within the next week to 10 days. I think it's just a matter of time. So when you see that, take it in context. Don't freak out and think, oh my gosh, Steve, what's happening here? It's happening everywhere. And this is what's going to happen basically every year in late December, early January. You're going to have a lot of guys go in the portal, and they're going to find something else to do with their college careers. It's not an indictment on Mississippi State. It's not a criticism of you. Don't take it personally. It's not a criticism of the football program or Coach Mike Leach and the staff. The reality of it is that you got to go get on the field. Simple as that. You got to find a way to go play. Let's thank our good friends at Bulldog Burger Company, longtime sponsors of the show. I love going in there. I love getting the food to go. I love eating there. I think everybody does. It's an exciting place to go eat. Your kids, if you've mentioned to your kids tonight, hey, you guys want to go to Bulldog Burger Company? Yeah, Dad. Yeah, Mom. Let's G-O. They're going to want to go because there's so much fun food there. You can get the great spring rolls as your appetizer. Everybody enjoys that. It makes you and everybody around you better looking. The next segment of that, too, is you get that great restaurant quality hamburger. That's why you go to Bulldog Burger Company, is to have those great restaurant quality burgers. And maybe perhaps, maybe mom, dad thinking, you know what, hey, I'm going to be a little health conscious today. I'm going to have that BLT salad. You can get that grilled or fried. It's the best salad in the Golden Triangle, without question. You get that chocolate shake to go, perhaps get the Shipley Donuts bread pudding. You're already thinking about going right now. You're thinking, you know what, I wasn't sure about what dinner was going to do for us tonight on Friday, but perhaps Bulldog Burger is the move. And I think Bulldog Burger Company is always the right move. 3 great locations to serve you right here, University Drive in Star Vegas, Gloucester Street there in Tupelo, and of course, the brand new one, Lake Harbor Drive, the Richmond-Flowood area. Still getting a lot of great reviews. People have said, you know what, Steve, game day's kind of tough, or we tailgate on game day, so we don't get to enjoy Bulldog Burger Company in Starkville. But you know what? They opened a location in central Mississippi right here in our backyard. We're having a blast. You will too. Bulldog Burger Company, the place where people go to meet. M-E-A-T. All right, our top story. Mississippi State ladies with a big road win last night at the University of Alabama. And let's be honest, we had no business winning that ball game, but we did. Give Doug Novak and his crew a lot of credit. Ladies now 1-1 in SEC play. Of course, the SEC opener against Florida was postponed. Then they lose on the road by a dozen at number 1 South Carolina. And then they beat Alabama in Tuscaloosa. And for a team that is essentially a bubble team for the tournament, anytime we can pick up a road win, that's great for us. Ladies will be back in action on Sunday against Vanderbilt, 2 p.m. in Humphrey Coliseum. That is an SEC Network Plus broadcast. Let's talk a little bit about the win over Alabama. Doug Novak, had some assistant coaches test positive for COVID. The team was without Rakia Jackson, and you still find a way to get a dub. That's getting it done. Bulldogs led by 4 after 1 and by 5 at the break. Alabama cuts it to 2 after 3 quarters of play, and then the Bulldogs win the fourth quarter 14-13 and emerge with a 65-62 win over Alabama. Absolutely outstanding. 1,922 people attended. A lot of those folks are Bulldogs, and I love hearing this stuff too. I was at the Grizzlies game, so I didn't get a chance to watch. I will plan to watch tonight, watch the replay. But to hear our fans on the road chanting defense there in the fourth quarter says a lot about our fan base. It really does. And I know for those of you that could not attend, you appreciate those who did. Looking at the numbers here, Anastasia Hayes with 22 points for the Bulldogs. 9 of 17 from the floor, played all 40 minutes. Jerkalia Jordan, 36 minutes of action, 7 of 15 from the floor, knocked down 1 3-pointer, pulled down 7 rebounds, 16 points. Maya Taylor, kind of the straw that stirs the Bulldog drink, played 37 minutes despite having a sprained ankle. A lot of people thought she wouldn't return. She did come back. She is the driving force behind this team. She's 6 of 12 from the floor, knocked down a big 3, 6 assists, 2 blocks, 7 steals, 14 points. That's pretty good. I'd like to see a few more assists there, but yeah, here's the deal. Maya Taylor had a chance to go anywhere in the country, chose to be part of your program. Little did we know that she was going to be part of basically a rebuild here at State. But I commend her for not going in the transfer portal. A lot of people would have. Say, hey, this wasn't the program I signed on to be a part of. Didn't the coaching staff that recruited me, so I'm going to go somewhere else. Well, when you have her her prep resume, she could have done that, but she stayed the course. I respect her for it. Danae Carter, who has kind of become a force for Mississippi State, wearing number 25 these days, number 34, 3 of 4 from the floor, pulled down 10 rebounds, committed 4 personal fouls, but was able to avoid that critical 5th foul. 6 points for her, but great job on the defensive end and certainly pulling down those rebounds. 7 of those defensive boards. Aislinn Hayes, 28 minutes of action, just 1 of 5 from the floor. Knocked down a couple free throws, 4 rebounds, 1 block, a steal, and 4 points. State got just 3 points from the bench. Pretty thin bench, right? Only had 8 players that had any significant minutes last night. Katarian Thompson, 19 minutes for her, just the 3 points. That rounds out your Bulldog scores. State off to a good start with 9 of 18 from the floor for 50%. They finished the game shooting 44.3%, the weakest quarter being the fourth, 4 of 11 there in the fourth quarter. 40 points in the paint, and who'd have thought we'd said that without Jessica Carter. 20 points off turnovers. Great job by the Bulldogs in that respect. 8 second chance points, 16 on a fast break, and again, just the 3 points. The game was tied 3 times, and the lead changed to 8. State had every opportunity to fold in this ball game. They absolutely do not. They hold Alabama to just 41.8% shooting, which is not a bad night. They're 37% from 3. Alabama was 10 of 27. That'll get it done. Bulldogs were just 3 of 18. So we didn't defend the perimeter well, and we didn't execute offensively from the perimeter very well. But at the end of the day, we win the ball game. Pretty great. Looking down the stretch here, and that was one of the things I was kind of keeping up with on my phone, is, State is up 58-57 after a free throw from Anastasia Hayes with 3:37 to go. And from there, State led the rest of the way. Maya Taylor with a fast break layup made it 60-57 with 3:25. We knocked down a couple of free throws from Aislinn Hayes with 2:32 to give State a 5-point advantage. At that point, you feel like we're okay. Then we stretch it out even more. Anastasia Hayes with a point-blank layup to make it 64-57. So the Bulldogs, a 7-minute lead with about a minute to go. Megan Abrams knocks down a big 3 for Alabama to pull them within 4. State makes a free throw. Maya Taylor goes 1 of 2 there, makes it 65-60 with just 10 seconds to play. And they add Jemiah Mingo-Young, former Bulldog player, gets a layup up and in for the final basket of the night. And then, of course, State wins 65-62. So great night for the ladies. Now 10-4 and 1-1 in the SEC. Alabama 10-4 themselves, 1-2 in the conference. And so not a bad team. It's not like we went and beat a team that was struggling to find a sense of themselves. This is a team that's won a lot of ball games. They were 10-3 entering the game, a game ahead of Mississippi State in the overall standings. And the Bulldogs go win at Coleman Coliseum. So congratulations to Doug Novak and the team, and a lot of positive social media traffic about the ladies from you guys. And that's great too. It's always great because, listen, let's be honest. Anything we get out of this season we feel like is probably a good thing, right? And so when we get something good like this that happens, you go on the road and you're shorthanded and you still find a way to get a W, and you're missing your best player and you're missing basically half of your staff, and you still find a way to go get a win, says a lot about Doug Novak and says a lot about the character of these ladies. There's still a lot of pride in that uniform. We talked about that, with LSU playing Kansas State in the Texas Bowl. They were undermanned, significantly. And they still went out there and played hard. They lost, but they showed a lot of pride in their uniform. And here's the deal. No matter what's happened in the last 2 years, this is a Mississippi State team that has played for a national championship twice. This is a program that ended UConn's big winning streak. And so it's not just the Mississippi State women's program maybe of the 1970s, early 80s, or anything of that nature. This is a program that still has a lot of pride in it. And while we have had some ups and downs the past 2 years, there's still a lot of pride in a uniform. And there's also a lot of pride in each other. And so I commend the ladies and commend Coach Novak for going out and getting it done. It's outstanding, man. It's an outstanding win for us. Now you've got a chance to go take on Vanderbilt at home, and I suspect we'll have a decent crowd there before we get ready to go to Kentucky. We're going to get a Vanderbilt team coming in here, and pretty exciting times for us. Chance to go get a dub here. Kind of looking at their women here just briefly to see you guys kind of well aware of what you're looking for when Vanderbilt comes to town. Vanderbilt 10-5. They have improved. They didn't play last year, but the last couple of years, Vanderbilt has kind of been a difficult. Putting on that Vanderbilt uniform and going and getting a dub, it's been difficult to do. They've won 5 games in a row. They begin the year with a 75-59 win over Gardner-Webb. They lose in Nashville to Arkansas Little Rock, then lose to Middle Tennessee, and then they kind of figured some things out. Took down Tennessee Tech, took down Jacksonville State. They lose by 2 in the Virgin Islands to Arizona, bounce back to beat Rutgers, and then lose by 17 to DePaul. They beat Chattanooga. They lose at Lawrence, Kansas, 74-67. They beat Albany, 52-41. They beat Prez, 81-57. They win in Philadelphia at St. Joe, 64-45. They beat Alabama State. They beat Arkansas in Nashville, and now they play us. And so, again, a 5-game winning streak. Arkansas, when you look at that, Arkansas really the only team of any significance that really kind of raises an eyebrow just a little bit because it is an SEC game. So we're going to have to go out there and play a good ball game. Now, do I expect to win the game? Yes, I do. I do expect to win the game, but this is certainly a team that's capable of beating Mississippi State if we don't play our best game. They're 8-1 at home. Good thing we're not playing them in Nashville. They're 1-2 away and 1-2 on a neutral floor. So 2-4 away from their home arena. And, to be honest with you, some of this competition, outside of maybe Arizona, Kansas is a Power 5 team as well. A lot of these teams are not teams you would look at and say an SEC team should lose to. But, that's the thing I'll say about women's basketball is there is a pretty big gap between the haves and the have-nots. And then there is that middle tier where things are kind of wild and crazy and anybody can beat anybody. This is kind of one of those games. If Maya Taylor is healthy, if Rakia Jackson is back, and we certainly hope that she will be, you like Mississippi State's chances. So, again, celebrate the dub. Excited about the ladies and what is to come. We'll have a coaching change at the end of the year. And now there's some people that say, not within the administration, but some of our fans are thinking, hey, if Novak can get these ladies to play, maybe we should consider him. And maybe we should consider him. I don't believe that he is a priority candidate at this point. That's not to say that if he puts together a great run here, that he couldn't maybe play his way into contention. But at this point, I suspect that he won't be your next women's basketball coach. I think the interim label will stick. But he's kind of auditioning for the job now and got a couple big road games coming up. Of course, you get Vanderbilt here, and you go to Kentucky, then you go to Ole Miss. And Ole Miss playing exceptionally well right now. And they haven't beaten us forever and a day, and we all know that that'll be their Super Bowl. So if you are a Mississippi State women's basketball fan, I know many of you are, but there are several of you that love to go to games on the road. We're going to need you in Oxford. They're on January the 16th. That's just 9 days from now. So if you're looking for something to do that weekend, because there will be no college football on, we're still a month away from college baseball, maybe get out and go watch the ladies play and support them in Oxford there at the Pavilion as they take on the Lady Rebels. Be nice to kind of keep that streak intact. All right, Perfect Game came out with their preseason baseball poll for the 2022 season. I'm not going to run the whole thing down like we did the collegiate baseball poll, but let me just run down some important things for you. I'm not going to break down every team like we did. But number 25 in the poll, Liberty. How about that? 24, Long Beach State. That's going to be your season opening opponent for Mississippi State. So you get a top 25 opponent right out of the gate. That's going to be an improved team. Florida at 23. Nebraska at 22, Tennessee 21. Tennessee, of course, finished the year ranked 7th last year in the same poll. UC Irvine at 20, Oregon at 19, Miami at 18. The Hurricanes expect to be better this year. And they always should be. There should always be a lot of talent in South Florida. UCLA at 17, Oklahoma State 16, Florida State at 15. That's on reputation. Florida State finished unranked last year. You may recall they went to the Oxford Regional and lost. Arizona, 14th in the poll. I think that's a bit high considering all they lost. Of course, Jay Johnson leaves to go to LSU and takes a lot of great players with him. Arizona finished 8th in the poll last year, 14th in the preseason. East Carolina, 13th, finished 12th last year. It's interesting to me. ECU kind of always just kind of hangs around as a solid mid-major, but they just can't quite get there. Number 12, Texas Tech, finished unranked last year. I don't know that that's fair. You remember they got in as the top 8 national seed last year and then didn't make it to Omaha. But I'm a big Timmy Tadlock fan. They're going to be able to swing it. They always do. They recruit that offense exceptionally well. Georgia Tech, number 11, probably in the last decade or so of the non-SEC teams, I would say Georgia Tech is probably the most overrated. They go 31-25 last year. They do return a lot, but I think to expect them to be near the top 10 is probably incorrect. Ole Miss, number 10 in the preseason poll. I told you guys Ole Miss is going to be able to swing it. The whole issue with them is going to be like last year. Will the pitching hold up? Well, you don't have the frontline pitching on the weekends you did a year ago, and the bullpen issues really haven't been addressed. So basically, Ole Miss is going to outscore some teams, but when they get into those pitching duels, it's going to be difficult. Arkansas, 9th. End of the year number 9, enter the year number 9 this year. TCU, ranked 8th. End of the year 22nd. I'm eager to see what happens here. You know, Slosh left and went to A&M. And so we'll see. We'll see what happens. You know, TCU was a team last year in many respects was considered by many to be one of the softer of the top 8 national seeds. And, of course, they were ahead of us in the poll, and they were the first top 8 national seed to be eliminated from the tournament. And then Schlossnagle has left. So we'll see. NC State, number 7. I think that might be a little bit sympathetic after what happened last year. They finished the year ranked 4th in this poll. They begin the year 7th. Elliott Avant, those guys do a great job out there. I just don't know with what they have coming back. They'll be a contender in the ACC, there is no doubt. But to have them preseason number 7 almost seems like a bit of a gift. Mississippi State, preseason number 6 in this poll. Of course, Bulldogs, you're defending national champions. And then they have Notre Dame ranked ahead of us at 5. Let me go ahead and tell you, I don't think that's correct. I'm not saying State wins this thing. I'm not saying State wins the SEC. I think State's a better team than Notre Dame, though. Link Jarrett and those guys doing a great job at Notre Dame. But when you lose Cavazos, it's a big deal. Now, defensively, they'll be a great team, but what are they going to do when they play on dirt? We saw. Number 4, LSU. This is a gift. LSU will be better. Are they the number 4 team in the country? I don't think so. And I think we talk about projections. This is a team that basically got into the NCAA tournament last year as a gift to Paul Maneri due to his long servitude in this great sport. And so they didn't deserve to be in the tournament, but they made the tournament. And so now we're going to make them preseason number 4. That just doesn't seem right to me. And they finished 15th in the country last year. And whatever. Stanford in at number 3. I like this team. I thought last year they were a little bit ahead of schedule. You know, they won some games, to say the least. Finished 5th in the country after making it to Omaha. This is a team that I think has the pieces and certainly the coaching staff to make a run. I think it's pretty safe to say at this point they are the Pac-12 pick to win the conference championship. I suspect they will. I suspect they'll be a top 8 national seed. And depending on how the pairings work out, I could definitely see them back in Omaha. Texas, number 2. Now, I'll be honest with you guys. If I'm voting in a poll, I got Texas number 1 because of what they return. Mississippi State obviously a better team than them last year, and they proved it on the field time and time again, beginning of the year, end of the year. You can't say, well, yeah, they caught us at a good time. Yeah, we caught you several times, and we beat you all but once. Kind of gifted you that one too. if you want to be honest about it. But I like this Texas team. They did lose a couple of big sticks. This is a Texas team that's going to have some pitching. This is a Texas team that's going to be able to play a little defense. I like Texas. I would have them ranked number 1. But Perfect Game has Vanderbilt ranked number 1. Guys, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that I'm, this definitive expert on college baseball, but I suspect, and I've got the receipts and the tax returns to prove it, I watched more baseball in the Southeastern Conference in person than anybody in this country. And based on what I saw, Vanderbilt is not the number 1 team in the East, not the number 1 team in the SEC, and certainly not the number 1 team in the country. I don't know if people realize what all they lost. Say, Steve, they're going to have this. You're going to have Bradford back. Yeah, I mean, you are. He's going to be back, and it's going to be incredible. But the reality of it is Vanderbilt, you don't lose 2 first-round draft picks and then get better as a staff. You know what I'm saying? I don't care how well you recruit. You lose Kumar and Leiter, you're not going to be better as a staff. It's just not how it's going to work. That's just not how it is. Now, Javier Vaz is back. He's a senior. I guess he's back. I guess that was last year, 21-22, yeah. So Vaz is a guy that was, a decent player for them. But, he's not what I'd call a difference maker. Carter Young is a guy that I really like a lot. And he had a really difficult postseason because people kind of figured out he had a hole in his swing. He really struggled with that four-seamer in. And we really made him pay for it. And, of course, he's the one that breaks up a no-hitter. Kind of hit a little bleeder out there. Landon Sims knows that kid, too, from playing summer league ball together and that sort of stuff. And then I hear that Dominic Keegan, the former first baseman, might actually catch for them because they lost both catchers. So that'll be interesting. So you've got some guys out here that have some reps, but you also have some guys out here that need some experience. Enrique Bradfield is a guy that we were talking about him earlier. I mispronounced the name, but Enrique Bradfield is a guy that's a freak of a defender. And you know what he is, as a bunter. If he can find a way to be a little bit better with the bat, be more of a doubles hitter, he could have a big year. He could have a big year for him, really could. Can he beat the Jake Mangum, the table setter? Basically when you let that guy on first base, it's a double, Phenomenal player. But they lose a lot around these guys, and that's the thing you look at. Are they a contender? Well, yeah. Are they number 1? I don't think so. I really don't. And I think that there are some teams in the East that are a little bit undervalued right now. I think Florida is going to be better. And I know that, our friends at D1 Baseball love them some Florida. But Florida is going to return a lot of pieces. They're going to return a ton offensively. If they can find a pitcher or two, and Florida always seems to have one, that's kind of Kevin O'Sullivan's calling card. We'll see how things break down. But I wanted to take a look back, too, at the same poll a year ago. I know you guys kind of enjoy going back and looking at all this stuff. Let's go back and look at the preseason top 21 poll from Perfect Game. And again, I'm not being critical of Perfect Game. This is their poll. And so number 25 last year was Central Florida. Didn't do so much. Georgia, 24th, didn't make the tournament. Ohio State, 23rd, nothing of real significance. Texas was preseason 22. Florida State, preseason 21. Arkansas was preseason 20. Now, let's be honest. We won an AFL championship last year, but from tape to tape, from Arlington through the regionals, would we all not agree that Arkansas was the best team in college baseball? I think we would. We wanted to play them again. We would have loved to have played them again in Omaha. But for them to be 20, and I said on this very show last year when the media votes came out, I said I think people are undervaluing Arkansas. I think people may be overvaluing Arkansas a little bit this year, but they're going to be good. As long as Dave Van Horn is there, they're going to be good. Number 19, Georgia Tech. We just discussed that. Georgia Tech, always overvalued. Michigan comes in at 18. They made the tournament. I believe they were like the last team in last year. Auburn was preseason 17 and finished last in the SEC. I guess they beat A&M. They finished 6th in the West. NC State was 16, so there was some expectations for those guys. Arizona State was 15, not so much for them. Indiana was 14, no. East Carolina right there at 13 again. Again, just kind of in a meaty part of the curve, just kind of riding the wave of being a mid-major. Mississippi State was preseason number 12. Arizona was 11. Of course, they made it to Omaha with us. UC Santa Barbara, a lot of people were big on them last year. They got hot late, too. They were a team that a lot of people thought that might emerge through the regional. They did not. UVA was 9. We played them in Omaha. So they're preseason number 9. They actually make it to Omaha. So that was a pretty good projection there. Because this is when it all starts to fall apart for this poll. LSU was 8, and anybody that knew anything about college baseball knew that LSU wasn't a top 10 team last year. You had no frontline pitching. You say, oh, well, Steve, they had Hill. Yeah, but see, that's a guy, too, that had never had to do it on Friday nights. You knew they were kind of a punch-and-judy team that was going to struggle away from home. They did. Miami was preseason number 7. You can do the math on that. Preseason number 6 was Vanderbilt. Of course, they played for a national championship, so you could say that they certainly met expectations. Won the SEC. I guess they did win the SEC, did they? Either way. Ole Miss was 5th. Preseason number 5. And I don't know if you guys knew this, but Ole Miss didn't make it to Omaha again. I was born in 1972 in July. Ole Miss has been to Omaha one time in my lifetime. And according to the preseason media, baseball people, this is the year every year. This is the year. You got culture problems at Ole Miss, you do. UCLA was preseason number 4. A lot of people had an expectation for that team. It didn't work out. Texas Tech was preseason number 3. Louisville preseason number 2. Didn't even make the tournament. And then Florida, of course, is preseason number 1. One of the last teams in. So Arkansas won the SEC last year. That's right. As we just talked about that. So my point being is that, and I've had this discussion on social media the last couple of days, and I hearken back to a conversation that I had with a young John Cohen back in 1989. I've never forgotten this, and I've shared this with you guys before. Watching the Bulldogs play at Pete Taylor Park, I was there getting my baseball card signed. I was a Mississippi State baseball nerd. I guess I still am. And we've been number 1 in the poll much of the year, and we got beat. We dropped a couple spots. And I said, man, I hated that we dropped from number 1. John Cohen looked at me and said, you know what? The only poll that counts is the last one, and that's the one that we plan to be number 1 in. Didn't work out for us, but that's a mentality we should always have. These polls are just for fans to give people like me and you something to talk about. And also to kind of go back in hindsight and say, hey, remember these guys? Remember these guys? Remember when you blew this? That's what's interesting, too, is like kind of looking at some of these numbers to jump off, looking at last year. Ole Miss, of course, the 2020 year, we didn't get to finish, if you recall. But Ole Miss was 14th in the poll at the end of that year, and they rank them 5 in the preseason. Doesn't make a lot of sense to me. But whatever. But Ole Miss is going to be able to swing it for sure. But I like to look at these polls because there are always some teams like out west. Like I love watching Pac-12 baseball. Like when we go home after covering a ball game at Duty Noble, I'm always still in baseball mode and I like to go home and I put on Pac-12 baseball. And I've always been a big Pat Casey fan. I told you guys my story about when he was at Oregon State and I covered the Beavers when they were at the regional in Baton Rouge one year and how great he was to me. But I used to love going to watch those guys play, and I like Oregon. I like Oregon State. I think at times, Washington has had some decent baseball. But there's no excuse that UCLA and USC isn't better than they are. I mean, honestly, I know a lot of those guys, those California kids, are a little bit prospecty. You know what I'm saying? It's like they're looking to get out of here and move on, with life. But it doesn't make any sense when you think a state as populous as California and as warm-weathered as California that you wouldn't consistently be a contender recruiting Southern California. Who wouldn't want to go to Southern California? And just so you guys know, just to put things in perspective for you, UCLA they've won one national championship in their history. That was against us in 13. They played for it twice, much like us. They have won championship. They have been to the College World Series 5 times. That's it. That's it. They've won a regional 6 times. That's it. How does that happen at UCLA? It makes no sense to me. And John Savage has been there forever and a day. How do you not recruit kids to go play at Jackie Robinson Stadium? I don't understand it. But, we'll see. There are a lot of things about Pac-12 baseball that, when I watch those guys, I don't see, when Oregon State had their run, when Pat Casey and them were at their best, you look at those teams and say, you know what, hey, man, this looks like these guys have the look of an SEC team. You got power at the corners. You have a dynamic catcher. You're solid at the middle defensively. You got 1 or 2 solid weekend starters, and then usually a third guy you can mix and match with. And that's where I think in order for the Pac-12 to get great, you got to start recruiting and playing the same style of baseball you play in the SEC. It's kind of the same thing when you look at the Big 12. The ACC is very similar to us. Big 12, really not so much. But the teams that are, teams like Texas Tech, teams like Texas, you go watch them line up and play against an SEC team, the people look similar. They do. We look similar. I'm excited to talk baseball, guys. We are about 6 weeks away from welcoming Long Beach State. And just the fact that we just talked about that, this is a team that's expected to make an NCAA tournament. Got a chance to make a very, very strong opening statement. I love the schedule. I love how I'm already making my travel plans like many of you. I'm already thinking, okay, I'm going to be able to make it to this game, and this game, and this game. My goal every year is to make every game. Doesn't always work out. I didn't go out there and play when we played Long Beach State back in 20. That was toward the end of that year for us. But I'll get a chance to see the Dirtbags in person when they come here. But I'm excited about that. Looking at the early part of the schedule, we have a chance to really get going. And then you think, okay, once we finally leave home, because we're going to open up with, 8 games at home. And then how's this for a road trip? March 2nd, we'll be in Pearl. So we'll make the short drive down to Trustmark Park and we'll play Southern Miss. Then we're going to come home, and then the Bulldogs are going to leave to go to Tulane. We'll be at Tulane that March 4th, 5th, and 6th. And instead of coming back that Tuesday, Wednesday, we're going to get Texas Tech down there in Biloxi. Looking forward to seeing you all down there. We're going to find out an awful lot about our team the first 10 days of March. We're going to find out a whole lot about this team. Tulane's a team's expected to make the tournament. Southern Miss expected to make the tournament. Texas Tech is a team expected to contend for the Big 12 championship. So we're going to find out what kind of pitching we got pretty early. Because we're going to be playing some teams they're going to see us as an RPI building opportunity. We're going to get their best shot. So looking forward to being a part of that. And you know what? We're Mississippi State. We're not just some team from Mississippi. We are Mississippi State baseball. And so everybody else knows that. And then this year, we are the defending national champion Mississippi State Bulldogs. So we are going to get everybody's best shot. Because everybody's going to say, hey, this is a team that's going to be in the tournament. This is a team that's been to Omaha 3 years in a row. This is a team that just won a national championship. Everybody is going to get up to play us. We can't afford to have a night off. Because nobody's ever going to lay down for us. Not going to happen. Just not how life works in college baseball. This is not like playing Alabama where you start just kind of playing for next week. Nope. It's a much different deal in baseball. Let's thank our good friend Blair Chandler. He's my friend. He's your friend. He's a friend in the industry. It always helps when you've got things that are complicated to have somebody to help guide you through that process. And that's Blair Chandler. When you're looking to refinance your mortgage or perhaps get a mortgage, get a second mortgage, a home equity line of credit, whatever, Blair's a guy to talk to. There are a lot of people that want your business. Blair's a guy that probably deserves your business. 21 years in the industry, top 1% close ratio in the country. You're dealing with a winner. This isn't just somebody that wants your business. This is a guy that deserves your business. Works for Fairway Mortgage, recently named number 1 in customer satisfaction in the mortgage lending industry. Not some subprime lender. Not just some guy doing mortgages out of his basement. This is a mortgage professional. And if you are interested in doing some business in that industry. Let me tell you this. Blair, because he wants your business, Blair, if you just mention to him that you heard about him on this show, whether it be by text or email, say, Blair, I heard your ad on the Boneyard, want to support you. You know what? He's going to pay for your appraisal. That's about a $500 or $600 value. Pretty simple, right? There's a lot of fees associated with getting a mortgage closed. He's going to pick up some for you. Give Blair a call or text today, 601-500-2344. Again, 601-500-2344. You can find more information at closewithblair.com. That's close, C-L-O-S-E, with Blair.com. And get your mortgage in the pipeline today. Let's go ahead and get things rolling. Get your equity working for you. Consolidate some debt. Put in a pool, whatever you want to do. Let Blair help you with that. All right, time for today's Top 10 list, brought to you by closewithblair.com. I have had multiple requests for this, and I wasn't sure how to handle this. My daughter is someone that's really into 70s music and 80s. Like every so often, she says, Daddy, I think the Eagles are incredibly underrated. And I said, within your generation, you're probably correct. But all time, when you old guys like me, we love the Eagles. We still love the Eagles. We loved every version of the Eagles. We like the Glenn Frey songs. We like the Don Henley songs. We like the Timothy Schmidt songs. We like the Joe Walsh songs. We like them all. We like the Eagles. She likes Steve Miller Band. She likes Bob Seger and Some Thinking, hey, this is pretty cool. And so recently we had a discussion. We talked about it again on the car last night. You know, her favorite singer, songwriter, Stevie Nicks. Stevie Nicks may be the best-selling alto of all time. Number one, she's incredibly talented. Number two, she's incredibly beautiful. And number three, her delivery and her vocal presentation is unlike anybody else. She's very unique. She's a classic voice. And has had the ability to put her emotion in words. And, of course, a lot of the better songs her and Lindsey Buckingham wrote together. And so I wanted to do a Stevie Nicks list. And you can't do a Stevie Nicks list without incorporating some Fleetwood Mac. And so I picked some songs that she sang lead on. There are a bunch of other songs where she has, huge parts. So I didn't pick all those. And matter of fact, there are 3 Fleetwood Mac songs that I wanted to mention as honorable mentions that I did not include in the top 10 list. And ironically, they all begin with letter S. Seven Wonders, Sarah, and Silver Springs. But here we go, top 10, including some Stevie solo stuff and then some legendary stuff that she sang lead on with Fleetwood Mac. Number 10, this was on our top 40 list when I was DJing. It's Talk to Me. Solo song for her. Big, big hit for her. You Can Talk to Me. It's basically about, when life's beating you up and you need a friend, you can talk to me. Number 9 from the Fleetwood Mac days is Gypsy. And it's perfect that she sang that song because she's always kind of had that Gypsy vibe herself. I love the song. I love the lyrical content. I think it's a great track, even without the vocal. It would have been an incredible instrumental. But you see, you're a gypsy. It's perfect. Number 8, sticking with some Fleetwood Mac stuff, is Gold Dust Woman. Great song. And again, it's almost like autobiographical. Number 7, and my sister-in-law would have been named this instead of Amanda had this song been released a month before, because my mother-in-law loved the song, but it's Rhiannon. And again, I love the vocal delivery on this one too. Stevie Nicks makes the song. I don't know that, other people could have sung it and would probably have been great. This was just one that just seems to fit the pocket so well. Stevie did some solo stuff too, some duet stuff as part of her solo career, kind of away from Fleetwood Mac. I've got a couple of those tracks on here too. Number 6 with Don Henley. We mentioned the Eagles earlier. It's Leather and Lace. It's a great tune, and right back in those days, this was like one of those super songs. I mean, it's nowadays it's a little bit different. I guess in some ways we have kind of been desensitized when stuff happens, because so much stuff happens nowadays. But, we knew who Don Henley was from the Eagles, and we knew who Stevie Nicks was, and she was beginning to dabble some in the solo stuff. And then word began to break that they had done a duet together, and so there was all this interest, and lo and behold, it becomes a huge hit. Leather and Lace. Number 5, also from the solo career, it's Stand Back. the video is a little bit awkward. I don't know if we just didn't have enough room for her to move around a lot, but it's almost like she's walking backwards. But Stand Back, I like the vocal delivery on this one too, and it's a little more up-tempo. And so it's not like the Fleetwood Mac stuff, other than the fact that that wonderful and beautiful raspy voice is what's singing along to you. Number 4, I reached out to my kids today and said, hey, we're doing Stevie today on the Top 10. Give me your favorites. And Ani says, hey, you got to include the scene from School of Rock. Well, of course, that's Edge of 17. And if you have not watched School of Rock, I just wonder, what are you doing with life? And my hope is that School of Rock will inspire a new generation of young people to pick up instruments and not like auto-tune stuff and keyboards and that sort of stuff. Go get some real instruments and go beat some drums or play bass and learn a couple of riffs on the guitar. But there's a great scene when Dewey Finn, who is Jack Black, takes the principal to get a beer, and then he plays Edge of 17 because he had found out during his own surveillance and his own due diligence that the principal loved Stevie Nicks. So there you go, number 4, Edge of 17. Number 3, another one of these power duos. This is one of the great Stevie Nicks songs, even though she doesn't sing the full vocal. But it's Stop Dragging My Heart Around with Tom Petty. This is an incredible song, and I can feel her emotions in the song. That's one of the things that I'll say about Stevie Nicks. There are a lot of people that can sing a song. There aren't a lot of people that can really move a crowd. And I don't mean like in a party type atmosphere, you know, when everybody's drunk or whatever, and they drop some funky bass line or something like that. That's not what I mean. But somebody that can really elicit emotion from their listener, there are a few people that have that like Stevie Nicks does. And that's one of these songs where you can feel it. There are times like you listen to Stevie Nicks and you feel like she is singing to you. It's to you. And it's so easy to go down memory lane when you listen to her because there is such authenticity in her voice. Number 2, and I discussed this with my children too, we laughed about, there was a TikTok video that came out here several months ago of a guy on a skateboard, and I guess he was drinking some Mountain Dew or whatever, drinking something. And people are like, oh my gosh, what is that song? I was appalled. I was absolutely appalled. The song is Dreams. Dreams by Fleetwood Mac. And I share with you, if your children don't know Dreams from Fleetwood Mac, I may need to turn you in. If you haven't shared the gift of Stevie Nicks, that might be considered child abuse, man. All my kids know it. And Mia, my youngest daughter, she laughs about that there were so many friends of hers who were like, oh, they're listening to songs. Like, hey, you're in a Fleetwood Mac. Well, I just heard this song on TikTok. And you know what? If that's what it takes to get good music listened to by today's youth, then so be it. But Dreams, and it's good to see it have like another return and revisit another generation, whether it be by social media or not. The video was kind of goofy anyway. But people are like, oh my gosh, what is that song? But number 1, I don't know if there has been many songs written or performed better than this one. There have been some great ones. I've shared with you on this show, there have been some, in my mind, some perfect songs. This is one of them. And it's Landslide from Fleetwood Mac. And it starts with Lindsey Buckingham, just an incredible guitar player. So underrated. Guy don't even use a pick, man. He just plucks. And he's just that opening bar, and he just kind of plucks you in, and next thing you know, Stevie is just soothing the soul, man. I love that song. I think it's the greatest Fleetwood Mac song in many respects, and it's certainly the best Stevie Nicks song, and one of the best songs in the history of American music and perhaps all of music around the world. It's been covered by a ton of people, but nobody has ever done it better than Stevie Nicks has done it. So there you go, your top 10 Stevie Nicks songs, and I'm sure there'll be somebody who'll say, hey, Steve, you didn't get this one, and you know what, that's cool, because then I'll listen to that one. And maybe we just disagree on it. We talked about 13 tracks today, probably could have talked about 30, easily, because that's how talented she is, and that's how long and expansive her career has been. So be sure to listen to that today. And if you have ideas for the top 10 list, reach out and let me know. I'm on all forms of social media at Scout Steve R. And then, of course, you can hit up Izzy and Roy. Roy puts these things on Spotify for you guys. You can follow him at Dogmatic, DAWGMATIC 67. Find him on Spotify under that same nomenclature. And then, of course, our good friend Izzy Mandelbaum. And I hope you don't think you're better than him, because if you do, it's go time. Does a great job putting this out for us on Apple Music. So reach out. Let me know if you've got ideas. We're going to try to run through some of your requests here the next couple of weeks. All right, next segment of the show brought to you by Campus Bookmart. Good friends of yours, good friends of mine. Good friends to the Mississippi State family. Stan the man, Miss Kathy Brown, the lovely, talented Susie. Everybody down there will treat you like family because in their mind you are family. Simple as that. If you can't make it to town, let me encourage you to visit them on the World Wide Web. You can find them at campusbookmart.net, and by being a loyal Boneyard listener, we'll give you a phrase that pays. That's BSR, which stands for Beautiful Steve Robertson. And that'll get you free shipping on all orders over $50. Any order less than $50, absolutely incomplete. You may have saw today on social media advertising those nice lined fleeces with the trendy M/S logo. That's the defending national champion M/S. Be sure and check that out. It's going to be cold the early part of baseball season. You're going to want to be here. Represent the brand with some new maroon and white threads. Again, that's campusbookmart.net, promo code BSR. All right, the Mississippi State men will be back in action, if all things go according to plan, this Saturday evening against Ole Miss. A big ball game, to say the least. Let's take some time to look at what the Rebels have done this year, 8-5 on the year. Shared a little bit about them earlier in the week. Of course, they get off to a pretty good start, knocking off UNO and Charleston Southern. Pretty impressive in those victories. They lose to Marquette, beat Elon, lose to Boise State by 10. Then they bounce back and beat Valley. They beat Ryder. The big win this year was a 4-point win in Oxford over Memphis. And they turn around and just look abysmal a week later against Western Kentucky out in Atlanta, Georgia. Lose that game 71-48. Winners over Middle Tennessee State by 10, an 8-point win against Dayton. Then they lose to Samford. It's like just when you think they're kind of doing what Mississippi State did last year. It's like you get everybody on the bandwagon, and then you have some unexplainable loss. The game against Florida was postponed. They opened SEC play with a 66-60 loss. If I read correctly, they did not trail in regulation and then lost in overtime against 66-60 losers to Tennessee. And then they will host Mississippi State at 7:30 p.m. this Saturday evening. That is an SEC network broadcast, so you should be able to watch that from home if you don't want to make the trip up there. But let's kind of get to know the Rebels a little bit better. And again, an 8-5 year, you look at it and say, hey, it's not too bad. But when you consider some of those non-conference losses, you can see why some of the Ole Miss folks have kind of been somewhat disenchanted. Matter of fact, I've seen a lot of, fire Kermit posts over there. I don't think that's going to happen by any stretch. But Rebels averaging 69.6 points a game. That's pretty nice. Allowing 63.6. So, again, they've kind of played to their competition. Again, not a lot of blowout wins or losses, but there have been a couple of each. As a group, they're shooting 42.9%, allowing 40.9%. So, again, very similar numbers here. From the three-point line, they're 31.9%, allowing 29.2%. That might change against us. We don't defend the perimeter exceptionally well, and we haven't really shot it exceptionally well from beyond the arc this year too, but we'll see how things progress. I don't think this is a matchup you look at and say, hey, this is one where State's going to really struggle. I think it'll be very much a coin flip game. Rebounding, again, the numbers for the Rebels, very similar. 37, just over 37 boards a game, allowing 36. Could be the difference. We're a very good rebounding team, or we can be when we're healthy. Dishing out 14.2 assists per game, allowing 14.6. It's pretty crazy. Now, turnovers has been interesting. They have generated some turnovers. They're turning the ball over 12.7 times a game, but are forcing 15.5 turnovers per game. They're converting those pretty well, too. 16.5 points per game off of turnovers, and then allowing 10.5 off turnovers. Assist-to-turnover ratio for them, 1.1, and then 0.9. So, again, you look at these numbers and you say, hey, not a lot of difference between Ole Miss and the teams they play. Looking at steals, 8.1 a game, allowing 6.5. We have been a little handsy at times. We can kind of get out there and make some things happen, force some turnovers. They blocked is 2.9 shots per game. Opponents have blocked 3.2. So you can kind of see. I mean, the record kind of stands to reason when you break these numbers down and you look at this and say, hey, they're not substantially better than their opponents at really much of anything. Jarkel Joyner has played in 12 games for them, leads the program at 14.8 points per game. Has pulled down 42 rebounds as well. 15 steals, 12 turnovers, 36 assists. Deshaun Ruffin played in just 5 games for them, coming in off the bench for them, but has been very effective when given an opportunity, averaging just over 18 minutes a game, just under 19. 11 points per game. That's your only 2 double-digit scores. It has kind of been a by-committee approach for the Rebels. Jameen Brakefield is a guy that's done a pretty good job for them as well, 8.8 points a game. Pulled down a total of 59 boards. The leading rebounder is Niger Brooks, 103, averaging 8.7 points per game. Also leads the team in personal fouls in 37. You expect that with interior play. Also has 12 blocks, which also leads the team. Pretty handsy himself with 12 steals, which is among the team leaders. The best thief is Luis Rodriguez, 20 steals on the year. Also has 3 blocks to go along with that. And so there's not somebody you look at, you say, hey, I've got a game plan around this guy, even though Joyner would probably be the one guy you look at. He leads the team in made three-point baskets with 22. Also leads them with attempts at 62. Shooting just over 35%. Ty Fagan's a guy a little more limited in his attempts, but is hitting just over 40%. Austin Crowley, 11 for 30. Almost 37% for him. And free throw shooting as a team, shooting just 69%, which is nice in some circles. The starters have been decent. Deshaun Ruffin, just 18 of 25 on the year, 72%. Brakefield, 15 of 21. Brooks, 21 of 32. That's right at 66%. Ty Fagan's a guy you'd love to foul with the clock winding down. Chances are he won't be on the floor, shooting just 50%. So as a team, not doing great. The best free throw shooter, obviously, is Joyner at 84.6%. He's 33 of 39 on the year. Interesting, to say the least. You know, they haven't played a lot of conference numbers. There's not a lot of comparison at this point that you can make. But when you look at this group and you look at the record, it all, again, kind of stands to reason. This is a team, obviously, that's still kind of finding a sense of itself and a true identity offensively. And so, again, you've got one starter, regular starter, averaging in double figures. Deshaun Ruffin's a guy we talked about earlier, has started just one game for them. Brooks is the only guy that started all 13 games. Even though Rodriguez has been very involved, missed just the one game as a starter, but has participated in 13 games. So they're still selling the lineup, much like many of us. You'd like to do that in a non-conference. But, again, a team you look at, this is a solid team. And, you know, emotionally, they're going to be up to play the game. Kermit will have them up and ready to go. This is a chance for them to kind of get their fan base behind them. I think that's what we all expect. You know, looking at minutes played, Joyner leads the team, 400 minutes. Brooks, 345. Luis Rodriguez, 325. Brakefield, 320. Matthew Morrell, 299, and he has kind of been a part-time starter for them. Started 6 games and has appeared in 7 others. They do get a little deeper than perhaps some other teams do. Sammy Hunter is a guy that has played in all 13 games but hasn't started any, averaging right at 10 minutes per contest. And so, interesting numbers when you look at this. We'll see how things kind of progress with this Ole Miss team. But a lot of people, felt that they were a team that should make the tournament. Now is probably time for them to start turning it on. Again, kind of up and down this year, to say the least. Their high point of the year, they scored 93 points against Charleston Southern. Also, they're probably their best shooting performance of the year. They shot it 75 times, made 38, knocked down 11 threes. Also knocked down 11 against Tennessee. So we should expect to see a lot of three-point attempts. Their season high 31 against Ryder. Did a really good job at the free throw line against Memphis. That proved to be the difference in the ballgame. They were 23 of 29 in that ballgame. We mentioned those three-point attempts. They pulled down 57 rebounds against Ryder. It kind of goes to, kind of stands to reason too. When you shoot as much as you do from the perimeter, you're going to have some opportunities to pull down some rebounds. Very, very prolific defensively against Tennessee. 12 steals in that ball game. Also turned it over 27 times. And again, a game that I'm sure they'll tell you they should have won. I don't think there's any question. They should have won the game. They didn't. So we'll see how things go. I'd love to say that we're going to win this game. I believe we can win this game. I think it's really going to be about managing emotions in this game. Can we go up there and play within ourselves, kind of understanding the importance of the game? The thing that I have learned, and I think Andy Kennedy did a great job of this when he was there, he made the game to be a big deal. Made it a big deal. And, of course, the final game that he coached was here in Humphrey Coliseum, and State just absolutely destroyed Ole Miss. But Andy Kennedy really swung the series in their favor because he placed a great emphasis on it. Now, granted, part of that, too, is, we were still kind of finding a sense of ourselves. We were kind of lost in the wilderness a little bit. I don't know how Ben Howland handles things behind the scenes. But this does not appear to be a, quote, rivalry game the way that it once was. When Rick Stansberry was here, it's one we had to have. When Richard Williams was here, it's one we had to have. And not just because of the fact they were the in-state rival. I mean, there were some very, very good Ole Miss teams at the time, and so it was an important SEC game. It wasn't just a battle for in-state bragging rights. It was a chance for us to go get a big win, to help ourselves in the RPI and now the net. So we'll see how things, go for this. But we have a chance to go win this ball game. If we go out there and can defend the perimeter just a little bit, I think we have an edge on the boards. And I think you could see State win this game on the road, which would be huge for this program. I've shared with you guys before, I still feel pretty good about this men's basketball team. It would be easy to say, well, what's not going to work out? And listen, I think I'm pretty honest when it comes to the Ben Howland tenure. But it's a big game. This is a huge game for Mississippi State. I think everybody that knows anything about it, not just because it's Kermit and the Rebels and, a team that basically is similarly situated with us within the SEC conference. We're probably right there on the same tier. This is a chance for us to get a leg up. You had the big win against Arkansas. We were outstanding. And hate that the Missouri game got postponed. Number one, I felt it was a game that we could win. But also, two, feel like we were kind of on a roll. 84-63 winners over Winthrop, and then 81-68 winners against Arkansas. Felt like that we were kind of beginning to play our best basketball of the early season. And now we get some time off. So don't know how much that'll impact us, but I told you guys before, this first three games were very, very important to the schedule. Well, now one of those games has been postponed, and you won the first one. You win this game against Ole Miss, things really start beginning to set up pretty well for you. It's still the SEC, and there's still a lot of games to play. But to get off to a 2-0 start, I think, is huge for this team, and also, too, for the confidence of this team and one another, and to kind of draw the fans. And the fans have done a pretty good job. And we'll get a chance to see that again. It's a Wednesday tip, 6 p.m., against Georgia. And Ben Howland has done a really good job against Tom Crean in Georgia the past few years. So that's a game you look at and say, that's a game we should probably win. Then, of course, next Saturday we get Alabama before we pack our bags to go to Florida. Alabama has always been a difficult matchup for us. They will be again this year. But you begin to kind of look ahead here and say, if you find a way to win this one, you knock off Georgia, you got a chance to be 4-0 going to Florida. And that's, again, getting the cart before the horse a little bit. There's a lot of basketball left to be played. I still believe that this team can and will make the NCAA tournament. I may not feel that way 2 weeks from now. That's how I feel today. And so you start stacking some wins in SEC play, and all of a sudden you have more people that are interested in coming to the ball games. And you start looking ahead, too. the first home game after that trip to Florida, that's the Rebels. That would be a huge game. It's a Saturday afternoon game, 2 or 3 p.m. game. So if State can handle business here in the next 2 weeks, you got a chance to have a really, really big crowd for the Ole Miss game at 3 p.m. On the 22nd. So it's not that far away. And again, a chance to get an Ole Miss team that's probably middle of the pack. Kermit will have them up to play. But you could find a way to get, start getting ready to get into that Big 12 challenge. With a winning record, I think you can start feeling good about State's tournament prospects. And so again, it's one game at a time. And I think we can all begin to say, hey, this is a team that has some talent, and when they play up to their potential, they can play with just about anybody. So we'll see how things go. But I do think State has a really good chance to go to Ole Miss and win this basketball game. But again, the emotional factor of this game, I think it could be the determining factor. We don't have a ton of Mississippi kids on this roster. Ole Miss has a few. They have Kermit, a guy that fully understands what this game means, not just for his team, but the perception of each program, what it means in recruiting, what it means within the media. You got to find a way to go win this game if you're Ben Howland. You got a really good chance to get off to a good start, and to be 2-0 after taking care of an Arkansas team that many people expect to be in the tournament, and then having a chance to go play Ole Miss that looked pretty good against Tennessee. Knocking down some shots from outside. You can go out there and make those guys play a little defense. You got a chance. So don't want to spend a lot of time belaboring the point, but eager to see what we do Saturday night. Final segment of the show brought to you by Portico. Brooks Bryan is my friend. He'll be your friend too. I've shared with you guys before, if I was moving to Starkville now, I would move to Portico. Brooks is part of a great group that is bringing this wonderful residential development to Starkville. Brooks cares about Starkville, cares about Mississippi State, cares about you. Cares so much he wanted me to give you his personal cell number. And you can get more information with him about Portico. Let me give you the number now. It's 601-416-8075. Again, that's 601-416-8075. And here's the deal. Portico is just over a mile away from campus. Very convenient. Close enough for convenience, far enough away to have a little privacy. It's tucked away over there off of Old West Point Road, so you're not out there by the dorms. You're not on Fraternity Row, but you might as well be when you think about how close you are to campus. But when you think about, hey, I'm raising a family, I want to have a little privacy, that's what you're going to have. It's one of these neighborhoods kind of in the country, if you know what I'm saying. You take that turn off of 82 on a 12. The very first right is Old West Point Road. Take that, the very first right is Pat Station Road, takes you across Old West Point Road, and the next thing you know, you're at Portico. Go check it out. You can get a 2-bedroom, 2-bath home up to a 4-bedroom, 4-bath home. And here's the deal. If you're not in any hurry to move, if you're thinking, hey, we're going to do it after the school year, now's the time to make the move. Because then you can pick out your lot and pick out your house plans, then have an opportunity to have some say in how the home is built. That's a pretty cool thing. Whether it be your primary residence or a secondary home, perhaps your ball game weekend retreat, maybe it's an investment property, you're going to Airbnb that thing out, Brooks is the guy to talk to. Absolutely without fail. Very, very easy guy to talk to. I've told him so many times before, it's so great to see former players kind of invested in our community, and I think we should support that whenever we can, whether they open restaurants or businesses around town or whatever. It's good to see people giving back to the greater Starkville area, and that's exactly what's happening here. Brooks, again, part of a great group of investors that are making this thing a reality. So, again, give Brooks a call today and make Portico your next move. All right, let's talk a little recruiting in the time that we have left together today. Not a lot going on right now, but business is about to pick up. So the dead period runs through the 13th. A lot of people don't fully appreciate what that means, but let me share this with you. The dead period, coaches and players can still talk. And, of course, players can call coaches as much as they want to. Coaches can pick up the phone. Now, we can't do any off-campus recruiting, and we can't do any on-campus recruiting. You can say, well, Steve, I've read that some schools are hosting visitors. Well, yes, for mid-year transfers, you can host visitors up to 7 days before the spring semester begins. So you couldn't have a high school guy unless he's an early enrollment guy. You couldn't have a JUCO guy unless he's an early enrollment guy. So for us, 7 days from the beginning of the spring semester would be the 11th. And so we don't gain a whole lot. Maybe there would be a mid-week visitor. Maybe there's a guy that's like, hey, I'm going to visit here that weekend. Would love to see Mississippi State. So it's not totally out of the question. It's not anything that I expect to happen right now, though. But with these transfer portal situations happening basically every day, every time you turn around, there's a new name in the portal. There's a guy within our conference. Sometimes there's a guy on our team in the portal. So things change rapidly. So you may run across a guy here this weekend. It's like, hey, Coach, I'd love to give Mississippi State an opportunity. However, I'm visiting, South Carolina the weekend of the 14th and 15th. I'd love to see you guys before then because I want to make my decision that Monday. So there is conceivably a way you could put that together. Just not expecting at this point. So at this point, we're not expecting any visitors on campus this weekend or even next week. And so we'll begin host visitors again. And, you'll have that weekend and, of course, basically 3 weekends in January, and then things go dead again. I'm not going to chase that old rabbit trail about the early signing period, but you'll have 3 official visit weekends. Now, I don't expect there to be huge official visit weekends down the stretch. You've already got 20 guys signed. Now, State I guess has 7 guys this year in the portal. Now, it's a little more technical than that. You can't just say, well, we lost 7. You only get them back if everybody is in good academic shape. And so if that's the case, then we'd get all those guys. But, we could sign, right around 30 players, give or take 1 or 2. We had 26 grants available when we opened the December signing period. We've used 20 of those. Okay, so that means you have 6 available. Then you've had these guys go in the portal. Quentin Torber, of course, Calvin McMillan, Aaron Odom, and you've had some guys go pro. So you've got right at 30, 31 spots you can work with right now. So and expect State to use them all. Maybe you save 1, maybe 2 for the next year, but with this 1-year exception, I would suspect you're going to sign all the way up to the full 85. That's the whole point. And the NCAA granting this exception is to allow teams that have had a lot of guys transfer out the opportunity to get back to 85. As I shared on Wednesday's show, I don't think a 1-year exemption is going to be enough. Unless they tweak the transfer portal, we're going to have to make these adjustments probably every 3 years or so. If not, you're going to have some teams, especially some of these G5 teams, you're going to have a lot of these teams that are going to be, well under 85. So we were going to have a good chance to hit 85 even without the transfers. But now that we've got this rule, we need to basically take it to replace some guys perhaps that are leaving the program that are not expected to make a contribution and bring some guys in that can. Now, we need some guys to make us a better football team in 2022. We've talked about kickers. I still think State is in a good position with Massimo Biscardi, who is a Luke Rosa finalist or Luke Rosa nominee from Coastal Carolina. He got banged up a little bit this year, has a COVID year available, and so he is in the portal. I'm not ready to say at this point that State's the favorite, but State is among the favorites, and I believe State's opportunity is one that he appears to have some significant interest in. And so we'll see how things progress there. Again, not ready to call that one, but I do like the way it's trending. Now, we've talked a little bit about, Marcus Banks. Now, Miami continues to call him basically every day. They haven't quit, nor should they quit. Now, I've heard some things privately that they're beginning to kind of see the writing on the wall. But, when you've still got basically another week to go to figure this thing out, why would you stop recruiting them if there's nothing to inhibit you from doing so? So Miami is still recruiting him, but Banks is still holding firm to his commitment. That's not to say that we're home free here. I feel like we're going to be okay. I do. But I also know that Miami hadn't given up. Don't know if they're quite as, maybe fervent in their attempt as they were, because he was ready to commit to Miami. And then State and Jason Washington and Darcel McBath got it done. So we're holding firm there, and obviously they're saying, hey, well, they went out and signed this junior college guy, and so where are you going to fit? Where do you fit? They got a high school guy coming in. They got a junior college guy coming in. They got Emmanuel Forbes coming out, so where are you going to play? And so that's kind of the angle they're taking. It's like, hey, you come here, we're losing guys at corner. They've already replaced Martin Emerson's lost with Carlos Nicholson. So where do you fit? And so our guys are having to say, hey, you know what? Hey, DeCarlos still kind of learning to play corner. You're going to have a chance to compete for that spot just like he is, and then the other guy will play second team. But the reality of it is there's some recruit speak going on as well. I think everybody kind of sees it for what it is. But as of today, we still feel pretty good about where we stand. Marcus Banks obviously is already committed to Mississippi State. It's just a matter of finishing. And, of course, this time next week, everybody's going to be making the move to campus. They're going to be getting ready to report. And so you get them in here, you get them signed up, you get them in the dorm, then all of a sudden things, then you can kind of feel a little bit better. Once he's on campus, you can feel a whole lot better about that. And, again, I don't feel bad about it now. But I've also been around long enough to know that it ain't over until it's over. Now, what are we going to do at these other corner spots? Well, we have gotten a little bit older. Last year we went out and signed Jay Hampton and William Hardrick late. Now, Jay is a guy that's still kind of learning to play corner. I wouldn't be the least bit surprised if you don't move him to wide receiver. Honestly, he was kind of a high school receiver by trade, made the North-South All-Star game as a wide receiver. And if he is having some trouble picking this thing up, move him to receiver. We're going to have some needs there, right? And so that may happen. Can't say that it's certain to happen. I think it depends on who all wants to come. If we strike well with receivers, maybe you keep him at corner and let him figure it out. William Hardrick is a guy we added late, too. A lot of people kind of panned that decision. I spoke to Darcel McBath during bowl practices. They loved William Hardrick. He's really beginning to kind of pick it up. And, again, he was a corner by trade. This is a guy that played a lot of defensive back in high school. And so he was an Arkansas State commitment. We took him late, and a lot of people were like, what are we doing? But as of now, it looks like he's progressing well. Then you bring in Aldavian Collins, and so you would like to have another younger corner. You feel good about DeCarlos Nicholson. You feel good about Marcus Banks. But, those guys have 2 years at most. And then you begin to think about this deal and say, okay, well, we need to get some younger guys in the developmental pipeline so we're not constantly having to go get a stopgap guy at the portal. There's going to be some years, obviously, where you have needs you got to fill, and the portal is there as a resource for you. But when you become reliant on the portal more so than your ability to coach and develop players, that is not sustainable. If you can coach and you can evaluate, you can develop, that is sustainable. But having to bet on signing a guy in January and then hoping he can be a savior for your program come August, that might work this year, but may not work next year. As we talked about before, you're going to get about a 50 to 60% success ratio when it comes to transfers. A couple of years ago, State did exceptionally well in the junior college ranks. You remember that year? We signed Montez Sweat, Chauncey Rivers, Jonathan Abram. It was a great class. We did really well. And those were junior college guys that were mid-year enrollment guys. And so, but a lot of those guys were D1 bounce backs. And so this kind of gives you the ability to target those kinds of players. But the reason we remember that class so fondly is because of the fact those guys contributed. And the thing that I go back to, there's a reason these guys are in the portal. And that's not to say that all of them are negative. Like we've discussed some of our players, and they're in the portal to find more playing time. But at the end of the day, let me put my coach hat on here for a second. It's one thing if a guy is not playing at Alabama, I feel a little bit better about that. And people would say, well, are you saying Alabama's better than us? Yes, I am. I am saying that, and you don't need me to say it. The record book shows that. And so if there's a guy that's not playing at Alabama, I consider, well, maybe, when you're signing 4- and 5-star kids every year, maybe this is the guy that got lost in the shuffle. I feel a little bit differently about the kid, from Bug Tussle Tech that's not playing. If you're not playing at Arkansas State, you're not going to play at Mississippi State. If you're not playing at Louisiana Monroe, you're not going to play here. Now, if you were a 3 or 4 year starter up there and you've got your COVID year and you're trying to improve your NFL draft stock, well then, I'm going to take a proven performer. But I'm not going to take a chance on some guy from a G5 program that can't play there. That'd make a lot of sense. I'd be better off going and getting a high school kid. That way I've got 5 years to use 4 years of eligibility and train him up in the way that I know how. So those are things you consider too. And there are a lot of defensive backs out there. I mean, we saw Arkansas has had a ton of guys go in the portal. A&M has had some guys go in the portal. Some guys that maybe have 2 to 3 years availability left. It looks like there is a problem at Arkansas. The whole secondary's leaving. What's that about? How would you like to be those guys? I mean, you go out there and you win your ball game and you're feeling great about life, and you've got among the nation's leaders of players in the transfer portal, and you didn't even have a coaching change. So that's something to think about. So if a guy is playing at Arkansas and wants to come here, well, yeah, I think I'm going to take that guy. But if you're not playing at Arkansas State, I'm not interested. But let's say, for example, you were a highly coveted player and you went to A&M, and maybe there was a position coach change, something like that, or maybe you're from my area, I'm a little more likely to listen to you. I might take a chance on that guy. And so, there again, just because these guys go in the portal doesn't necessarily mean they're a good fit for us. Because basically what we've seen, and if you go back to last year, we went out and got Tyrell Shavers. We had a connection with him through Mason Smith, and it didn't work out. And it wasn't Mason Smith's fault. It's Tyrell Shavers' fault. Things didn't work out, and he didn't do a significant amount at San Diego State. We had a connection through Jason Washington to Jalen Green. We were able to get him almost immediately. We had a connection to Mekhi Polk because Mike Leach and the staff had recruited him when they were at Washington State. And so it's difficult to build a relationship with guys that you're unfamiliar with. So unless they have a tie to this area, or a tie to Mississippi State, or a tie to one of our coaches, it's going to be difficult between here and the next 2 weeks to get some of those guys in the boat. And that's the thing you think about. It's like, oh, well, Steve, we got to February, the first Wednesday in February. Well, but we don't with these transfers. And so you basically are on the clock right now to get the transfers in, and then you fill in the gaps with some high school guys after that. And we will take a high school or a young corner from the portal because you're okay with that guy developing a little bit. You're not looking for that guy to be an impact player. So there may be a redshirt freshman out there that's got 4 years of eligibility to play, maybe 3-year guy. And maybe if it's a guy out there that you look at and say, hey, this guy's probably better than some of the guys that we have down the depth chart, let's take him because we're not going to need him to play this year. We'll bring him in, we'll cultivate him, and then perhaps he's good to go next year and contribute as a two-deeper. So those are things you're kind of looking at. And again, we've got to find one tackle. We've got to find one. J.D. Dorenza, I believe things are kind of fading with him. He is the offensive tackle prospect, 2-time All-American from Sacred Heart, played at the FCS level. His recruitment continues to explode, and he really doesn't know what's going to happen. He is basically, I won't say he's looking to be guaranteed a job, but he's definitely looking at a situation where he's like, hey, I got to go in and play. I'm an NFL guy. I could go pro this year. I got to get on the field. And I don't know that he's going to get those assurances from some schools. There's some people will tell him whatever they want to hear to get him on campus. And maybe we should, because he doesn't have the benefit of going in the portal but after this. But the reality of it is you got to be smart in how you handle things. You can't put yourself in a situation because let's say, for an example, you tell a guy, okay, yeah, you're going to start, and then he goes through spring practice. Well, this guy's a grad transfer. He says, okay, well, cool, I'll just go ahead and transfer out and go somewhere else. I'll be there this fall instead of being here. So you've got to be mindful in what you do. All the recruiting talk, a lot of that's kind of died down a good bit. But things are about to get cranked up. We will start previewing official visitors this week over on Gene's page. And, again, not expecting but maybe a handful per weekend the next 3 weekends. But that'll be your visitors. There'll be some transfers that will probably be in that second weekend because you can actually wait until the drop ad date, just as we did with Jalen Green last year. Yeah, and I go back, I forget about Jameer Calvin. Jameer Calvin's another guy. We got him last year because of a connection to the Mike Leach system. He was at Washington State. And so you're more likely to get those guys than just having to cold call somebody and said, hey, this is Coach Mike Leach from Mississippi State. Maybe you've heard of me. We'd love to have you come be a part of our program. Oh, well, Coach, I just got off the phone with so-and-so, and they've got a donor that's going to give me a $50,000 name, image, and likeness agreement if I come there. What can you guys do? It's a different world in which we lead these days, a different life we lead than we did, maybe some years ago. So I share all that with you because I think it's important to understand recruiting business about to pick up again in a major way. And again, the priorities for us, got to get 2 receivers in the portal. Got to get 2. Got to get an offensive tackle, possibly an edge guy if he's a difference maker. Got to get a corner. Think we'd probably get if we hang on to Marcus Banks. We got to get 2 impact safeties. Think we're good at linebacker. Feel like we're great at running back. So we'll figure some things out. But that's, again, the priority targets. 2 receivers, 1 offensive lineman. That's 3 on the offensive side of the football. An edge and 2 impact safeties. That's the priority when the portal. Because that's all you hear about, this guy's leaving. You want to hear about some guys coming in. And that's what you're going to have here in the next few days. But again, there's going to be some other guys leave. Listen, we're about 3 weeks away from the ship date for Dogpile, thank goodness. And again, as I share with you guys, it'll be shipped from the printer to the publisher. And then I will sign books, and then it'll be shipped to you. So on or around 26th, 27th is when that thing will ship from the warehouse. And then we'll get these books out in the mail to you. And I'm eager to get it done. You guys have been very patient with me, even though it's not my fault. But I'm the one that gets the messages. And thank you guys for being so kind and courteous. I mean, I've probably had 500 messages or a little bit more, and I've only had 2 that were negative. And I got one of those 2 pretty much turned around. But, it is what it is. We're all excited when we buy something. I mean, it's like I'll buy something from Amazon, and I'm ready to track my package, as soon as the confirmation email comes through. So I get it. So if you haven't ordered yet and you'd like to, go to dogpilethebook.com, and you can order Dogpile, Flim Flam, Stark Villains, and Alpha Dogs right then and there. If you're looking for Blooms of Oleander, you get that through Amazon. We just talked about that. BarnesandNoble.com, BooksAMillion.com. It was a lot of fun putting that thing together. Don't know if I'll ever do one of those again. Maybe in a couple of years, we'll see. You never know where life's going to take you. It was a lot of fun putting a book of poetry together. I still write poetry. I just hadn't published it. So we'll see how things progress. And again, so many of you have asked, and I thank you guys so much, you great Christmas friends, to share on social media your Stark Villains gear. People have said, hey, Steve, I saw that. Where do I get it? Very easy, starkvillains.com. T-shirts, hoodies, in an array of colors and styles. Be sure and check that out. Well, that's it for today. Again, I apologize for being a little bit late. Went and got that booster shot today, and just took a while to get everything done. So we'll see you guys on Monday, hopefully recapping a great win on the hardwood against the Ole Miss Rebels. But until then, let's all live our lives in a way we make more friends than enemies, and people can see a difference in the way we live.